Welcome back, everybody, to the latest and greatest installment of Go Folk Yourself podcast, an American podcast. This week, we're going to take another turn away from a state episode and do something a little bit broader. This is one of our deep folking sessions where we talk about something tangentially related to folklore. I hope you liked our last one of these that we did on Disney Plus and the terrible incel that was Hans Christian Andersen. So I hope that this one is as informative, fun, maybe not as funny, but still enlightening. Today we've got Brett talking, obviously, because I never shut up. And we, as you can hear there, we also have Ethan.
Hi. Hello.
And Nick.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, welcome, guys. I'm glad we're getting
Thank
to
you.
do this one. This is something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while.
How long?
Probably like 6 months, I'd say.
Nice.
Which is, in radio years, an infinity amount of
Yeah,
time.
it is.
The fact that we've kept the content going for so long is just impressive.
I
Because
know.
normally we pivot pretty quickly.
I know. Usually we're like, no, that's trash. We're never doing that. No,
Yeah.
that's extra trash. We're definitely not doing that.
Like Nebraska, we just ditched that state.
Yeah,
We're
we
never
just-
going there.
yeah, well, there's 49 states in America. Everyone, in case you
We're
didn't know
just
that.
not going. Yeah, exactly.
So, what we're talking about tonight, as you guys can tell from the title, Southern Charms. This is actually this may be a multi-part episode, by the way, for you kids at home. A multi-part episode on the U.S. South, folklore
Nice.
therein, magic traditions that are found there, as well as a general political discussion on the South itself.
Right.
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time shitting on the South for good reason.
For very good reason. We live there.
We live here. We can
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, we have a
not like-
long, troubled history with it.
Exactly. Not like you Yankees who shit on it for other reasons,
Yeah.
which are all valid.
The baseball team, not the Northerners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That fucking
Does Derek
team.
Jeter still play for them? Is
He
that
Sure.
Does not.
okay? He's not a
Not for many years.
no.
He's about to be in the Hall of Fame.
A-Rod. Is he
No.
still in a baseball player?
A-Rod. No,
Tiger Woods.
Fuck A. What?
Am I off base here?
Mike,
You are
off
off
base.
base.
You.
Mike Pizza. What about that guy? That was a.
That's it for Southern Charms, everybody.
Oh yeah, there we
yeah,
go. He
whatever.
played for the Mets.
I think the Mets.
There we
Yes.
go.
Nick
Short
would
for the
know.
New York Metropolitans.
I
Best
know
Republicans.
all about sports.
You
everybody.
do. You're a big sports than this guy. Am I right?
Uh-huh. You want me on your trivia team?
Yeah.
So
He's the sports guy.
that's right.
That's what they call him, Brett the Sports Guy.
That's why my hat's on backwards today, guys.
So the perfect trivia team would be what? Sports guy, history guy,
Music guy.
music guy.
It's
In
really
fact,
us.
Yeah, we would be the perfect trivia
We would just
team
call in Dan Kane. We're all set.
Why have we never done a trivia night?
because we
I've-
would dominate.
I feel like
would be
that would
fair.
just be unfair.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Right now.
We
Right.
could win a $50 bar tab, literally anywhere.
Whoa.
That's a lot of beer.
That's yeah.
It's almost as much as I normally drink.
That's
To forget the pain.
so
So
today.
today, talking about the South. So what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about just the South in general, our experience in living there,
Mhm. We're gonna-
regions in the South, because it's
Right.
actually
what is the
what is
South?
the South? We need to define that.
Right.
We're going to talk about some folklore and magical traditions that are
Mhm.
found there, because it's actually an incredibly diverse area of America.
It is.
And then we're going to talk on some maybe themes and figures, although we may not get to that in this episode.
yeah. So
uh,
maybe a
we'll-
part two.
Maybe part tour, because
Yeah.
there's a lot to talk about there too.
Right. Yeah.
So, like I said, we shit on the South a lot.
Why?
Because
Why? Why
But
do we
why?
do that?
it's because the history of the South is
Mhm.
terrible.
Yeah.
Pretty much from the inception of our country,
Yeah.
was bad, and
Pretty
that-
much.
I think that our government really made some grave mistakes
Mhm.
in making political concessions.
Yeah.
But also, when you think about like the framework of our government, how they built it was not as inclusive as it could have been.
Definitely not.
But if you
yeah.
take it back to like the promises of like Thomas Paine, like the actual radical of our founding fathers.
Oh yeah.
Peace up to you, T-Pain.
T-Pain.
The original
right.
T-Pain.
The original T-Pain.
T-Pain.
If I feel like if we had listened a little bit more to him than we
Mhm.
did, maybe Jefferson
Yeah,
or someone
Madison.
like that, or
Yeah.
Madison, then maybe we would have had a better setup from the get-go. But
Yeah.
the South really wasn't set up for success
From the start.
exactly. And so when
Yeah.
people when you think of Like, because we've got some listeners overseas. What do you guys think they think of when they hear us talk about living in the South?
For like a half a second, I thought you were asking them, like, what do you guys think? And then it was just going to be like dead air for a second. Like,
Yeah, that would have been weird.
That would have been weird.
But like, if you had to think from like an outsider's perspective, what would you think of? Like, what pictures would you come up with?
Ethan, I'll let you go first. You look like you got a good one.
Well, thank you. I don't know. We'll see. If I've learned anything about people from other countries,
Right.
it's that Texas has, for whatever reason, made a big imprint on them.
Yeah.
So, which is always odd to me because I don't. Texas is the South, obviously,
Right.
but Texas is also its own beast, all on its own.
Basically, its own country.
Yeah, because it certainly could be. It was for a little bit, and I think that if any state in the union could, at the drop of a hat, become its own state again, Texas would be like, "Fuck yeah, done."
Followed by the Conch Republic in Key West.
Yeah, exactly.
Good
comment,
regional
Jose.
history fun fact.
so with the South outside of Texas, for people from another country, I'm specifically thinking of like the UK. That's what I'm thinking of because I know a lot of our listeners are in the United Kingdom.
Right.
Dozens of them.
Yeah, going
And-
strong.
Yeah. I would think that the South for them outside of Texas would be Tennessee.
Yeah.
Maybe. Just
Maybe like a
because-
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
Like-
would have Tennessee, New Orleans, and the Texas.
Yeah, you think of like the big cities, maybe Atlanta.
I could see
Maybe,
Atlanta
yeah.
making a comeback because
Right.
it's
Making a splash.
yeah.
Oh,
But-
no, it's Atlanta. Sorry.
Right.
When when you think about like the South as a whole, like it's an enormous region. It's one thing to say like, yeah, I'm from the South.
Yeah, but what the hell does
but
that
like
mean?
what does that mean?
Yeah.
It means I just like, seeing fireflies at night. I
Taking
like
things
biscuits
slow.
and gravy.
Yeah.
I like my
Football.
mama, and I like Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Church, rock
Yeah.
and roll,
Yep.
biscuits,
Leonard Skinner, sweet tea.
sweet tea.
Actually, I don't know if I've just lived down here for too long, but like all of that sounds great.
yeah.
I mean, it is great.
it is great.
Those are the best parts.
Truly, the food is magnificent
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
The secret to Southern food is sugar and salt.
Uh huh.
That's it.
That's all you need. Maybe some pepper if you're feeling crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Trying to make this spicy boy.
Uh
Woo.
huh. So, I've lived in the South my entire life.
Yeah.
Have you, Ethan?
Yes,
Yeah?
actually, I have. Yeah, I from the north part of Florida, essentially Alabama.
Right.
Then I went to college in Alabama, and my whole family is from Alabama
Roll
and
Tide.
Georgia. Yeah,
Roll Tide.
right? And
So that's the deep South, isn't it?
yeah,
In
the deep
Alabama?
south. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so south that if you go any more south, which
You're
is
drowning.
you're drowning. Yeah, the if you go any further south, you're hitting Central Florida, which everyone here can admit Central Florida is kind of an odd. It's not really the South anymore. There are so many transplants here.
That's
Yeah.
what took me a while to kind of understand. So like I moved here 10, 15 years ago, something like that.
Mhm.
Oh, you
from-
came here when you were in like late high school.
Yeah, well, I was like 13 when I moved here.
Oh,
So
okay.
like formative enough. Like I had already had a pretty good identification with like, yeah, this is kind of who I am. Like I grew
Right.
up in New York,
Right.
and then to come down here, like oh man, you're moving to the South. It's gonna be different. Everybody's
Yeah.
like you're talking like a fucking deep South person. Then you
Right.
get down here, and you're like, no, Florida's definitely not the South.
Yeah,
Florida's weird.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it's so large.
Yeah.
Everyone forgets how large Florida. Even I
and
forget.
phallic, large
Yeah,
and phallic.
large and phallic.
To give you folks overseas an idea,
Mhm.
it takes we're here in Orlando.
Yeah.
It probably takes 4 hours of driving to get out of Florida going north.
Yeah,
So
that's if you're like
That's
a
if you're
straight
booking
shot.
it straight
if you
shot.
don't stop.
Yeah, because it's 6 hours from here to Panama City,
Yeah.
and that's still fucking Florida.
And
Yeah, it
like,
takes like so. My wife's brother lives in Pensacola, like the tip of the
Jesus
Panhandle.
Christ!
that's as
yeah.
So yeah, that's
far
like
away.
7-8 hour drive.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's like the top left part, like
Mhm.
the actual panhandle part of our state.
yeah. Hell
If you
yeah.
go from like Miami to out of Florida, that's like what, 9-10 hours?
Easily.
Yeah.
Easy.
Because from Orlando to Miami, it's 5 hours.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So we're enormous.
Yeah.
Now I'm a little bit different than you guys. So
Yes.
I grew up in
I'm just a humble country boy.
pretty much.
I'm just a simple lawyer.
Just me, Foghorn Leghorn.
So
Did you go with the chicken from Futurama?
I went with a racist lawyer from like
Oh.
the
like
40s.
from
I'm just a simple country lawyer,
I
may
don't
not
know much.
but I know what wrong is.
and wrong is, etc.
Basically, the lawyer from
My cousin Vinny.
My Cousin Vinny. Yeah.
That's who I. Yeah.
Why do we always go back to My Cousin Vinny?
It's the perfect movie.
It really
it's
is.
hysterical.
It's one. They show that in law classes.
As they should.
They
It
should.
teaches proper
Apparently
legal
it's
procedure.
Yeah. Anyway,
So I'm from rural Central Florida. So when a lot of people think of Central Florida, you probably think of Orlando.
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse, land of like theme parks,
Blackfish.
etc. Yep.
Maybe Tampa if you're
Blackfish.
uneducated.
Yeah, maybe Tampa, the worst part of Central Florida.
Easily.
Strip club capital of the state.
Yeah. If you need cocaine or heroin,
Go to Miami.
yep.
They also have
Don't go to Tampa.
Don't go to
It will be faulty.
Tampa
Whatever.
is weird. It is one of
is.
the weirdest things. Anyway, I'm from not either of those places. I'm from a very small town in the middle of nowhere that is like a rural backwater.
Yeah.
You know, if you say the name of that town, that'll probably be the first time it's ever been mentioned on a podcast, ever.
Yeah.
Wauchula, Florida.
Wow.
Let that sink in,
Wauchula.
everybody.
Let that sink in. That's probably a city that nobody has ever heard of.
Nope.
Because there's only like maybe 40,000 people in my entire county. And it's
That is
literally
so
a
small.
farm place that
Yeah.
I'm from.
That's crazy.
So it's a truly rural
Yeah.
southern upbringing
Right.
that I personally had.
Yeah.
So it's weird knowing that I've got a lot of friends that are from Florida.
Yeah.
And when I talk about like where I grew up, they're like, "What? Excuse me?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean there was no?"
I'm sorry, can you take the hay out of your mouth? I
Yeah,
couldn't
right.
understand you.
Fucking hayseed, get out of here.
I bet Wauchula, Florida is closer to like Troy, Alabama than Panama City, Florida.
It probably is.
We're much
very
more
similar
rural.
to Troy.
Okay.
It's like a
The woods.
citrus it's like a citrus grove
Oh,
and
okay.
woods
Yeah.
and pasture lands, and like that's it. Like our big event was the
Yeah.
rodeo. Like,
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, like I'm talking like real, like
Wow.
you wouldn't think that you'd get that in the state of Florida, but you do
Yeah.
in certain places. And
It's
I happen
basically Palatka and Wauchula.
Wauchula.
yeah, but there's a whole stretch of Florida that's just like that. Like it's
Yeah.
not an anomaly.
I-
Like
Yeah, I was gonna say the history of Florida is weird because as we said earlier, Florida, or at least like Central Florida, Miami, Boca Raton, don't feel very southern at all.
No.
But if you get into the more rural parts of Florida, it does feel
you might
very
as well.
southern.
It's
Yeah.
like being in rural Florida is the
Mhm.
same as being in like rural
Georgia or
North
anybody
Carolina,
else,
Georgia,
Yeah.
anywhere like that.
yeah.
And-
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Also, like the history of Florida is wild because like we basically had our own like Wild West period here,
Yeah.
like
Wild West.
Wild
starring Will
West.
Smith,
that
Yeah.
timeless classic.
right?
Yeah, Florida's a very odd state when you start going from urban to rural because it was a vacation capital for
right.
for essentially people from somewhere else.
Well, he literally bought like all this swampland. Like this,
Yeah.
as the story goes, Walt Disney flew over and he saw all this just like literal uninhabited swamp,
Cheap land.
and he was like, "Yeah, I'll take that. I can make some money out of that."
yeah,
And Here we go.
Yep. And then we got Walt Disney World.
The reason we don't pay income tax.
yeah.
Thank you, Walt.
Thanks,
for
Dad.
nothing.
Here we go.
Oh,
Here
okay.
it
No,
comes.
sorry.
Oh,
I'll keep
okay.
that one to
All right.
myself. That'll be for Patreon.
Yeah.
As you heard, that was a bubbling diatribe from Brett. To hear more,
Yeah.
find us on Patreon.
Okay.
He didn't make it into that one, but he would have.
He would have
if
if
I
we
would have thought of
about
it.
Walter Elias Disney.
So there's our relationships with
Yeah.
the South, right?
Yeah.
That's nice.
But talking about like, I think a lot of things that, like we just brought up there is that like rural urban dichotomy, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously like other regions in the U.S. are going to have that too.
sure.
But what a
And
lot
that
of
is interesting. but,
yeah, it's interesting to focus on it, from the South because a lot of people think of the South as like a deeply red, like I mean, we'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Racist.
The
terrible
elephant in the
place.
room.
Yeah, right.
GOP.
Right.
Sorry.
Like racist kind of backwards place.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, the South is actually one of the most diverse places in the United States.
It is, absolutely.
Like when you think about like our approximation to, first of all, Latin America, like
Yeah.
in terms of geography,
They're right there.
the Caribbean,
Mhm.
In terms of the pirates.
The bizarre history as far as other countries
yep,
having territory in the South.
yeah, like Spain
Yes.
having territory in the
Yep.
South.
France for the longest time. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a huge native population here.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a small native population because of
Yeah.
obvious problematic practices in American history.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's a lot of
Ooh.
uncomfortable sort of
Yeah.
historical parts of the South that are important to why
It's-
it's so
well,
interesting.
Yeah, well, you got to think about like the direction of where the South is today.
Yeah.
As you know, obviously, it's defined by history. The
Right.
South was the slave-holding portion of the United States,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
you know we could have corrected, but did not.
Nope.
Because of political expediency.
Yeah.
And deciding not to make a decision.
Yeah. So
So-
like, you know what? Let's just ignore this.
Right.
It'll go away, right?
This is
Yeah.
fine. They'll take care of it.
And then inaction nearly destroys the country.
Yeah. And
But-
some would argue is still trying to destroy the country.
Yeah, no, I think that the inaction is the thing that
Mhm.
drives, anger
Yeah.
and
What's that quote? It doesn't take a bad man to destroy something. It takes a
good man to do nothing.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know
and
who said that, but
it's
Brett said it.
pretty
right
in
then.
line with this.
Yeah.
And if our country had focused on that, maybe we wouldn't be where we are.
Right.
But,
Exactly.
what's great about it though is if you think about the South as a whole, right?
yeah.
It is like literally, there's pockets of diversity all over it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's rural areas that may
Mhm.
or may not be as diverse as you would think.
Certainly.
But the urban centers definitely are.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it could literally be one of the most progressive places in the U.S.
It could be. It has every reason to be.
And-
Just without this terrible history behind it.
Yeah,
But-
exactly. And
it's-
obviously, I'll let you go talk
well,
on that a
it,
little bit.
it
yeah.
should. I mean, you mentioned it's very diverse in urban areas and maybe not so much in rural areas. And I have found that it's incredibly diverse, even in rural areas. Around surrounding, Alabama when I
Right.
lived there for college. Even in these really rural towns, it was a very large mix of white people and black people. And
Yeah.
surrounding the universities in these areas, there were a lot of transplants from China.
Really?
Yeah, specifically Chinese students would come over.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then a lot of them would come over for academic purposes, and then a lot of them would just stay.
Yeah.
They would just become U.S. citizens. And
That's
just,
awesome.
Yeah, so it's this really weird.
Yeah.
I can't think of the right word for it, but this weird hodgepodge
Yeah.
of people, even in these really
Almost
rural
a
areas.
melting pot.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's like literally nobody ever thinks of it like that. Like when people think of
Mhm.
the South, they think of like racist white
They
folks.
just think of racist white people, but
Yeah.
there's all these other cultures and peoples there.
Like where I'm from in my hometown is predominantly Hispanic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and nobody would ever know that if you
Yeah,
didn't go
definitely
there.
wouldn't guess that.
No.
And also had a large Hmong population, like
Hmong?
from China.
Oh,
like the
wow.
Hmong, like people that are in like the borders mountain region.
Yeah,
There's a huge Hmong community where I'm from,
that is wild.
right?
Yeah.
In like little middle of nowhere Florida.
Cool.
And I'm sure that is the case all over the place.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's crazy because you have like this huge region that
Mhm.
is like, first of all, like ethnically diverse,
Yeah.
that is also bioregionally diverse,
Yeah.
that is kind of, it feels like it's on the cusp
Mhm.
of becoming something better.
Yeah.
Does that seem
That does.
accurate?
I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
Like
I
if-
definitely
if-
think that tracks, just like given kind of how things have been politically lately.
Yeah.
Like we've seen a lot of things where we're seeing flips in things that people would have said for years are like, no, that's the establishment. That's like how
Mhm.
it works there. That's that state.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing these things turned on their heads because people are
Yeah.
changing, people are growing, and it's like the diversity of the region is really kind of showing itself.
Yeah, these voices that were silenced for so long.
Exactly.
Are no longer so silent.
Yeah.
Like Virginia, for God's sakes. I think their governor is a Democrat, and their
House
is.
And I
Yeah.
think is there senator?
I think
they're
it's
like
totally
full
I
blue.
think they
yeah.
completely flipped.
And
So-
that was the capital of the Confederacy.
Yeah, for
by the
God's
way.
sakes. Yeah. So like,
Even
come on.
Jefferson Davis is like, well, finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's huge.
Yeah.
Like that for those of you that are outside the United States or our listeners that don't follow these things,
Yeah.
that's a major thing.
Yeah.
Like that would have been an impossibility like 40 years ago.
Hell, even 10 years ago.
Yeah. And when you look at how many people are here, the more people that get galvanized into actually voting, these voices are heard more and more.
Yeah.
And it, like the stereotype is that, the Deep South is all red.
Yeah.
Not really.
Nope.
Not really. Like look at Orlando. Hugely progressive city.
Very much.
Look at Tampa, hugely progressive city.
Mhm.
Miami.
Yeah.
There's more people that live there
Yeah.
than anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then you've got the urban centers all over like Georgia and North
Mhm.
Carolina, little pockets of that progressive flair, and the people are spread out,
Yeah.
Like it takes galvanizing and changing these opinions of people
Yeah.
that can actually make them believe that they're heard, which is the unfortunate part of the South is that they were not
Yeah.
and were like suppressed in what they had to say. And you can look at that throughout the themes of the history, like the Civil
Mhm.
Rights Act in the South too.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
and all the pushback people gave against it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, right?
That's
Well,
weird.
yeah. So that's all the heady stuff.
Let's get to the
Let's talk
get to
on
the hits.
Let's get to the hits. So
Yeah.
we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some regions, right? So
Oh yeah.
let's paint you guys a nice mental picture.
Everyone grab your maps.
Grab your maps. So for those of you nature fans out there, which you gotta be if you listen to this show.
Of course.
Because
I think they're into nature.
everything that we talk about is basically outside anyway.
That's
Well,
true.
especially when we get into like Ethan, like when we let Ethan talk about national parks.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Which you have now been to a national park that I haven't been to.
You haven't been to Rocky Mountain National
I
Park?
have not. I know.
That's going to be an episode in itself. Stay tuned,
Yeah.
everybody. Colorado too. Mountain
Jungle
Boogaloo.
Nice. So the different biomes of the South. You've got. I'm looking at Brett's notes here. Brett, you mind if I just
Yeah, no, go for it.
name these?
Yeah.
So we've got the biomes. So you've got the Gulf that
Ooh.
is around the
Our neighbor.
Gulf of Mexico. So if you're looking at your map, it's the one that says Gulf of Mexico.
That's beautiful.
Oh.
Like I've been all up and down the Gulf.
It's wonderful, right?
It's like if you guys have never seen the Gulf of Mexico, it's not an ocean. Is it? An ocean?
I don't
No,
know.
I mean
Beats me.
it's
it's a
kind of its own
sea.
distinct thing,
It's like a giant kiddie pool.
Imagine
but with far less urine.
right. Imagine if
I don't
you've
know,
been to
maybe.
the
Well, not
Atlantic
that much
Ocean,
less.
Yeah.
but like a peaceful version.
It's
of
like
it.
a way better.
Yeah.
Like I'm biased because Panama City was right there in the Gulf.
Right.
So yeah, the Gulf of Mexico fucking rocks,
It's
man.
fucking awesome.
It's
I don't have a horse
gorgeous.
in this race, and it's a beautiful
It
ass
do-
area.
It is. It doesn't smell like duty, like
Uh-huh.
parts of the Atlantic Ocean.
Take that,
do.
Cocoa Beach.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not Daytona.
No.
It is no. It doesn't touch Daytona.
Nope.
I don't have to go to Daytona.
It's nowhere near shitty Daytona.
Jacksonville can eat garbage.
Yeah, it's wonderful. The beaches are gorgeous. So around the Gulf, even around, because that's a long coast. I mean, we're talking Mexico itself is looking at the
Right.
Gulf.
So you got
Te-
like
oh,
Florida, Alabama,
Texas,
Louisiana,
there,
Texas to Mexico. That is
Mississippi.
a huge
Yeah.
area.
That is like a
Absolutely.
cruise gold mine right there.
Yeah.
It's like an area that we absolutely annihilated by blowing up an oil
Yeah.
rig.
That's very true.
But we
Yeah.
made some cool commercials about it.
We
We're
did.
sorry.
We're sorry. Whoops.
If you've never gotten a chance to go, you should.
Yeah.
Especially if you live here
Yeah,
and relatively nearby, it's
Yeah.
worth a drive.
it is.
Like
Oh,
absolutely
man.
go check it out.
Yeah. Then the Ozark Mountains.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Ozark Mountains?
I don't know. What are the Ozark Mountains?
That's the mountain range that runs through like Arkansas up north.
No, I've
Um,
never been to those mountains. Are they nice?
It's incredible.
Yeah?
Like it is like absolutely breathtaking. Have you ever been to? Have either of you ever been to Arkansas before?
I've never been to Arkansas.
I haven't. No, it's neither ours nor theirs.
No.
I've got family that lives there. That's literally the only reason I've
Oh,
ever been
I'm
there.
sorry.
So you've seen the Ozark Mountains?
I have. It's incredible.
I
Okay.
watched Ozark on Netflix. Does that count?
Yeah. So yeah, it's close. enough.
True Detective season 3 took place in Arkansas.
There we
So
go.
you guys have actually seen the Ozarks a little
Yeah,
bit.
I've
then.
seen it
Yeah.
in media.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Looks pretty much just like that.
That's
Beautiful.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cut and print.
Now, is that part of the Smoky Mountains?
That's part of the Appalachian
Oh, okay.
Mountains, I believe.
Cool.
So
Which is the next
Yeah.
list on the bio.
So-
the Appalachian Mountains. This is
Kentucky, North Carolina.
I've seen
Goes
those.
up into Virginia. Goes up into Maryland.
Even
Yeah.
like
Like,
Pennsylvania area.
It kind of divides.
Right.
So if you look at the South as like 3 chunks, if you got like the Mississippi River as one
yeah.
dividing point, the Appalachian Mountains would be another dividing
Okay.
point.
Nice.
God tried everything he could to keep the South away from everybody else.
Yeah. He tried his best, you know.
Yeah, then Sherman figured out how to get there.
That son of a.
We
yeah.
can go over the mountains.
Oh, fuck.
Interesting.
What? Yeah, the Appalachian Mountains are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And full of poor people. So
Part
Jesus,
of the charm.
we are not classist here on this show.
Well,
we speak the tales of the folk, Ethan. The poor and not
That's
the
us.
rich.
These
Right.
are our bread and butter, Ethan. Come
Yeah.
on.
So the Appalachians are full of poorsies, right? Like,
Poors.
wasn't that the whole
Poros.
thing that LBJ was like trying to help these people that like live in the fucking mountains? You
Look at
remember
these
that?
mountain
The
hicks.
60s?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Ethan's just off of some fucking shit. He's like,
Well, yeah,
Look at all
what
these
do you
mole
wanna talk
people
about
here.
Ethan?
Or okay. So
Go
the,
for it.
so the Appalachian Mountains are gorgeous, but it's full of these people that live in these hills.
so you have Americans, and then you climb up the mountains, and you have goat fuckers,
You've
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got the fucking hills have eyes
Yeah,
people. that live-
exactly. So we're talking the
the
people.
night folk from Red Dead 2.
Yeah,
The hill people from 30 Rock.
They're it's kind of that. Yeah, we're talking like Kentucky,
Yeah.
West Virginia, the coal mining people that
That's a whole different kind of southern person.
yeah,
It is.
that's a wild breed of southern.
The Broncos of the Southern people.
You don't meet many of them.
No, for a good reason.
Unless you go there.
They
Yeah,
keep
you have
to
to
themselves.
you have to search for them.
I talked to a hill person
Yeah,
when I was in Gettysburg.
yeah.
I actually was at a bar with my dad, and I got a chance to talk to a guy that lived in the fucking mountains of West Virginia.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And that was wild. I barely understood the guy.
I bet.
Like, and I come from a family where like one of my parents is from Florida. My
Mhm.
only surviving grandparent is from like crazy rural Georgia,
Nice.
and my dad is from crazy rural Arkansas.
Yeah, so you're
Oh,
used
jeez.
to wild accents.
Yeah, so it's like 3 different things. Like, oh yeah, of course now, son. Oh honey.
Meanwhile,
and this
you
guy's
get like,
oh yeah. It's like gravelly, like
Yeah,
weird southern smoker man.
it's like what.
you had a chub, right?
Yeah, I was like, God, I wish I talked like you. Like, I'd be a famous voice actor if I
Yeah.
was you.
Right?
Right? Well, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
What is the Low Country?
Oh shit, that's like South Carolina and
Oh,
Georgia.
Hell yeah! I
Have
know
you ever
that.
driven through that?
I have. I've driven
Have-
right through there.
A little bit, mostly in passing.
Oh, Nick, have you ever been
I
to
need to
South?
stop.
Have you ever been to Savannah? First of all,
I have not. It's one of the
Okay.
ones on the list.
there is no way that you and your wife wouldn't love Savannah. First of all, it's
I've
one of
heard-
those nice pockets of
Yeah.
like beautiful city that is in the South.
Hmm.
So for those of you kids at home, most of the big southern cities were burned down during the Civil War,
Right.
because we were the bad guys
Yeah.
and we deserved it.
Can confirm.
Yeah. So most cities were burned.
Right.
Right.
Savannah was not.
Yeah.
Oh.
Savannah was actually captured by Sherman in his march to the sea, and the mayor of Savannah pleaded with him to not burn it down.
Dear
'Cause he
Mr.
got there
Sherman,
on, like-
please don't burn down our city.
No, it's more like he rode out on a horse and was like, "It's fucking Christmas Eve. Please God, don't burn down my city on Christmas Eve."
Jesus fucking
Christ,
Christ.
like we're not gonna fight you. We're done
Wait until New Year's or something,
like,
please.
we're done fighting.
We're
you.
done.
We
This blows.
You've already killed all our dudes by
Yeah.
this point in time.
Exactly.
So
Here, take my daughter. Just don't burn the city.
Don't burn-
So he captures the city and he gifts it to Lincoln as
Huh.
like a Christmas present.
Oh.
So it's a full,
It's a very
Like-
idyllic present.
yeah, right.
It
It's
is.
it's a full on antebellum city that
Oh,
wasn't destroyed by fire,
nice.
which is
That's really
impossible,
cool,
really
yeah.
impossible to find. Like there's certain places in like Charleston or Richmond or other places like that that
yeah.
has a historic portion.
Section
Yeah.
that remained.
But
The part
the
that
part
didn't
that
die.
didn't,
Yeah.
yeah, the part that wasn't burned down.
I did not know that about Savannah. at
Yeah,
all. That's amazing.
That's why the whole city is a historic district.
Wow. Nice.
Because it was allowed to be.
yeah. Sherman didn't destroy
Thanks
it.
for letting us exist. I appreciate it.
Hey,
Right.
wow. Thanks, Sherman. You fucking
But anyway, the Low Country is like the. The Low Country is like the. It's not a swamp. It's weird. It's like a
Right.
tidal
Mhm.
A
marshland
tidal basin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kinda.
something about the because they actually get fall there, maybe because it's a little bit more further from the equator, so it's
but it's still like beach.
yeah,
But it's
beachy,
not quite beach like you would think of it as.
not swampy.
Not like
beach.
Yeah.
some beach somewhere. It's more like there's a beach. Get me out of there.
It's like there's beach somewhere
Beach
nearby
adjacent.
because the
Beach
water comes so
adjacent.
far up into the land.
Yeah,
That's wild.
Yeah, it's weird. If you guys have ever watched the movie The Patriot,
yeah,
when he's in his canoe paddling around, that's low country.
nice.
Where's Davy Crockett in all this?
Tennessee.
Yeah,
Appalachians.
west.
There we go.
Yeah. Then the swamplands.
That's
We
us.
We know
That's
that.
my swamp.
Yeah, that's my swamp.
But that shit is like all over the South.
It is.
It's like the fucking bog.
yeah, like most of you know how it's interesting how South Carolina is not a swamp, yet all of Mississippi is this like shitty swamp.
And like all of Louisiana.
Yeah. It's like the opposite.
You can like kind of see it here. Like you
Yeah.
would be very much forgiven if you're like don't think about swamps that often in Orlando
Mhm.
because you've got to like go out of your way to see it. But as soon as you leave, you're heading
Yeah.
east. You're like, I'm going to the East Coast because I'm stupid, and you're like, I want to go to that beach and not the Gulf.
Not
yeah,
the good side.
Yeah.
I'm going to the bad side.
I'm going to the bad side.
So you're driving down 520 or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and it's just swamps
It
as
is
far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
abrupt
Like,
too.
It
like
goes from city to then you're just like, oh, there's a lot of like trees and stuff here while you're like passing through some neighborhoods, and then just hard you get to the St. Johns River District and it's airboats as far as the eye can
right,
see.
and you're looking out there and
Yeah.
you're like, wow, there's a lot of like huge birds, and like I
Like,
could see.
Pretty sure I saw a
alligators.
dinosaur walk by once.
Yeah, it's weird, primordial,
Yeah.
like land,
yeah,
and that's a huge part of it. Like there's swamps in
Mhm.
Arkansas, there's swamps in Mississippi is a huge fucking swamp.
yeah.
like Louisiana, huge fucking swamp.
It is.
It's weird.
It is
Georgia
weird.
has it too.
They
Like,
do. A large part of Georgia is a shitty swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like a large for the South for being so agriculturally prominent. Large like portions of it are uninhabitable
yeah,
by
like
humans.
inviolable for
Yeah.
life.
like no one should live in
I
Central
watched The
Florida,
Water Boy.
right?
I know you don't live there.
Yeah.
Right? It's weird. Like why anybody picked this area and was like permanent settlement.
Yeah.
Like I get the native people
right.
traveling through it
Yeah.
because that's what they did. They didn't like
Right.
permanently stay here.
Right.
But like
Yeah.
why did we do that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Especially pre-air conditioning. That's my thing.
Right?
Oh God, could you imagine that? And like pre-air conditioning, pre-malaria cure.
Yeah. I see why this was like the winter home for so many people. Like they didn't live here for like half the year.
I get the
Yeah.
appeal to
Yeah.
coming down here,
Yeah.
like from the north.
Like
but I-
right now, it feels really nice outside.
Yeah.
Well, like especially, I knew so many people that they're like, no, my grandparents are down in Florida or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was just like was normal for older folks like that to be like, no,
Mhm.
I'm just going down there because it's too fucking cold up
Yeah.
here, and I'm not gonna shovel snow.
Right.
So they come down to Florida when it's habitable,
yeah.
and then they're like, nope, too hot for me. I'm going back.
Going
to
back
New
up.
York.
Going back up
But
to Maine.
What I think is neat about it, like geographically speaking,
Yeah.
you have like drastically different feels
Mm-hmm.
in like this entire region.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not going to be like your wonderful like fall winter wonderland
No.
at all.
You're not
Like,
gonna
get
You're
that.
not going to get that.
No.
But like, you have like this like weird savage wilderness
Yeah.
aspect to it.
And it is not far. Like,
Like-
even just walking around UCF.
yeah.
like,
Yeah, there's a swamp
Yeah.
on UCF property.
Yeah.
Like,
They-
they
and it's,
built a
like,
boardwalk
celebrated.
over it.
That's very true.
They're like, welcome to our student union. There's a Huey Magoo's here and everything else, and don't walk in the swamp. It's right there.
Don't feed the alligator.
Watch out for the fucking gators. There's
Yeah.
lots of tall trees, and that's classroom building 1
so
and
yeah.
health and public affairs.
This is a sandhill crane. It's 8 feet tall and will eat you.
And it will peck the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And
But
if
it's
you
fine.
park near
Yeah.
it could do that too.
Speaking of
To your
parking,
vehicle.
it's impossible.
So that
Uh,
that kind of sets the stage for what the whole
Yeah.
thing looks like.
right.
And so when we talk about the South, like we're talking about the old South is one part of it, which is like
Mhm.
the original 11 states of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
Then you've got like so that's like Why don't we just
You're-
cover it?
yeah.
What is
Yeah,
that?
shall we name them?
Yeah, let's
So-
name. Let's call them out for their
Yeah.
past
But
transgressions.
do it in like the Animaniac style, like your Yakko Warner.
I'm not going to do that. Let's see. There's Alabama,
Yep.
right? Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Texas,
Texas.
Tejas.
and then we're also talking, before you go up northern area, Arkansas, though it's still in the south.
Yep.
North Carolina, Tennessee, and then Virginia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Virginia.
Which is pretty much bisected by the Mississippi River.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of the South, you got to think of it as being like two halves,
Yeah.
kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird different on the other side
It
from
is.
what we're used to.
Yes. It is weird because I have never thought of Virginia as being a southern state.
Really?
And I think it's because I didn't realize how large the South actually was.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
It's like a fourth of the United States.
Yeah. And it's so exotic that you'll have fuckers in like Ohio trying to be like, oh, yeah, parts of Ohio are the South. And it's like, well, but you're not.
All right, you didn't lose a war, buddy.
Yeah.
Come on now.
So it is.
It's really funny to say that. I never
Yeah.
really thought of it that way because, like, I always was like, oh, yeah, Virginia's hard South.
Yeah.
But it's because, like, I'd drive through, like, just leaving New York, like, takes me a couple hours to get to Pennsylvania or
Right.
And it's like
Jersey or
right
whatever.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like all right there. And then you're like, all right, well, now we're hitting the boring shit. We're going to be in Virginia for 5 hours, so
Yeah.
buckle up.
Yeah, man. Virginia is so boring sometimes in drives.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, like I felt like as a kid when I went to DC on like a family trip, when we got to Virginia, I felt like Virginia was just nothing but the woods, and then like cities
Yeah. And
planted
then like
or towns.
They
The
were pockets of
mountains.
civilization.
in the distance.
And you're like, where the are we ever gonna get to a mountain?
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about with the South.
Yeah.
right?
It's a weird thing to think about too, of like how
Mhm.
it is defined as a region based on a fucking war
Yeah.
primarily.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
was fought like over 100 years ago.
Right.
And that war was fought not even having the country have been established for 100 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
That is crazy. It's a
Like-
very bizarre history the South has with
Yeah.
the rest of. Yeah, and the U.S. in general has a very bizarre South.
I know.
Bizarre history
And
with
like,
the South.
Both of
when you
those.
it's
Both of
interesting.
those statements I said.
Like when you think about like this, I know this is kind of a quick. I'll do a quick historical detour.
Yeah, let's hear
When
it.
you think about the North strategy to beat the South,
Yeah.
the strategy that Winfield Scott employed, who was former commander in chief before U.S. Grant,
Right.
was
Hell
to capture the Mississippi,
Mhm.
to literally cut it in half,
Yeah.
and then blockade the shit out of both sides,
Nice.
and then to tear up the railroads going east to west.
Yeah. Yeah,
And that shit worked.
it did. Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit because Grant basically took that strategy and was like, okay, just wait him out. We
But
can
Winfield
just-
Scott wrote it.
Yeah.
And then they were like,
Right.
we're not winning fast enough. You're fired.
Yeah, it was a
And
bummer.
he's
he
like,
just
it
comes
was
in, he picks up the book, and he goes, I can do this.
Yeah. And he was like, it's a
Yeah.
war of attrition. It's kind of fucked up that you're firing me.
Yeah.
like, like all we got to do is not lose.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it.
That's it. They're going to run out of money.
Yeah, yeah,
They're go-
exactly.
and they fucking fired the guy. He got
Yeah.
kind of the short end of the stick with
He
that.
really did.
And then everybody was like, hey, good job, Grant.
Grant's like, fuck yeah, man, thanks. Whatever.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I guess I'll be Prezi.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hell yeah. So I see that you've split it up basically into two halves.
Yeah,
Which I
yeah.
appreciate. So we've got Appalachia,
Yep.
which is Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, Maryland, and Virginia. So we've included Maryland.
Yeah. Maryland can
Okay.
technically be in the South.
I could see that.
Because it's
Hmm.
a border state.
Right. That's
So,
right. Yeah, right around DC gets weird with
Yeah.
Delaware, Maryland, Virginia.
It's also weird that our nation's capital is it's actually in the South.
It is. It's
yeah,
right
like,
below the Mason-Dixon line.
yeah, if you look at it on a map, it's
Mhm.
a southern capital,
Yeah, absolutely.
which is another concession that was made
Yeah.
during the founding of the country.
You're
remember that.
welcome.
Why it wasn't in New York,
Beats me. Yeah. George Washington was like, fuck it. Nah, man.
we'll
But
never know.
they got the banks there.
Hey,
Yeah, exactly.
there you go.
If Hamilton taught me anything,
It's that sausage was made.
they rap?
They made sausage. And
They knew how to rap.
They rapped?
and he slept with two of the three Skylers.
Did he sleep with Peggy?
We'll find
No,
out
She
next
played
week.
Peggy in the anyway.
Who knows?
So then we have the second South, which is the Gulf South.
The south or south.
The South or South. So that's Florida,
Best state in the nation.
best state,
Florida,
Louisiana.
America's ween.
Yep. Mississippi.
Too many S's to be a state.
Right. And then I'm going to come back to this one. But Texas, we'll talk about that in a second.
I can't read this word, so I'm going to skip it.
I can't read this. Alabama and Georgia. Texas is included on the Gulf South.
Yeah, because
Right.
it borders the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
Galveston and
Yeah.
everything right there.
I feel like we can't reiterate this enough. Texas is really like 5 states.
Yeah, it
in
really
one.
is. It's wild. It's like weird desert, but then there's like
Yeah.
beach.
Yeah.
Like
And it's like Mexico, but
Mexico, but not.
Truthfully,
But then
Texas
Oklahoma,
and
but
California,
not.
very similarly, could
Yeah.
be split up easily into 3 to 5 states.
Yes.
Yeah.
That are just very, very economically, socially distinct.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're from Europe, that could be its own country.
Yes.
And probably is bigger than some countries that you've
Oh,
been
yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah, we really can't reiterate this enough. We're talking a shitload of land.
Right.
Not just with Texas, but just this one region, the
Yeah.
South, could be
Several
countries.
countries.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Even
just
weird.
Florida, so there's been a few things kind of going around lately that have said maybe the U.S. does need to split up into a couple
We sh-
partner countries.
Yeah.
You
maybe.
know, UK-esque, where it's like, okay, great, this is going to be the South or whatever they
Right.
want to call it, and then this one would be like,
Oh God, don't abandon
Texarkana.
me there.
Don't, please,
And
no.
Please don't leave me there.
I've seen those kind of proposals. I've seen one where they're trying to maybe divide up a few of the states, which they could totally do. I feel like Florida, rather than dividing Florida up, I'd rather just give the Panhandle to Alabama.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have that?
Why is it there? Yeah, I would just give it to them, and then Florida could be its own
Long bit.
dong,
Yeah, so
state.
We don't need it to be the dong and the pubis, just the dong.
just
Yeah,
the dong.
I
That's-
really don't want the Panhandle at all, because every election it's like, oh great, there they are.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
cool.
okay. They fucked it up again.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks guys. So there we
Good
go.
ol' Escambia County.
So there's
So we've talked a lot about like what they look like.
yeah.
So when you guys think about some of the folk tales that we've talked about in the South,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of those settings that we just covered
Yeah,
that you guys remember from us
Mhm.
talking about? Because we've talked about a lot of southern states,
we have.
and we've kind of touched on the stories in pretty much every one of those biomes at some point in time.
Yeah.
Anything stand out to you as being like particularly like weird or mythical or folksy?
I mean, we've touched on a lot of those in the ones like when we deep dive into the forest, the woods, the
Mhm.
the ocean. Like all of these things are represented in the South in one way or another.
Yeah, it's kind of a magical place.
It is a magical place.
It definitely is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason the best American writers are all, from the South.
Yeah, like
That's
Mark
right.
Twain
Yeah,
and Faulkner and
yeah, that's right.
is Hemingway from the South. Do we claim him?
Yeah,
he,
why
he
not?
died in the South, so
Yeah,
I guess we
fuck
should
it.
claim him.
Yeah,
He had a
let's
beach
claim
house.
Hemingway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the Conch Republic, back again.
exactly.
Second time in the episode. Thank you, Conch Republic.
Yeah, thank
Once
you.
more, and they get to be free.
Yeah,
So nobody say it.
That's right.
You got it.
Where Jimmy Buffett's always playing, and it's
Yeah.
always 5:00.
That's right. Margaritaville, USA. I particularly have enjoyed all of the squatches.
Oh yeah.
I
Does
think
the
Southern.
Squatch to you feel very Southern?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because because a part of the Sasquatch story to me is there's always a possibility it's just a big hairy guy.
It's
Running around
never
naked.
outside the realm of
Yeah.
possibility.
And I could only picture someone from someone hopped up on meth from like Dothan, Alabama, just hairy as fuck, running around naked in the woods like White Thing.
So I worked at. I'm gonna keep it vague. I worked at an auto parts store in is semi. I don't even know how to semi-rural East
Mhm.
Orlando. And
near-
I saw some guys that definitely could have been fucking Bigfoot.
yeah, right.
Yeah, back in my hometown, definitely.
Yeah,
If you told me today that somebody that I went to high school with captured one or killed
Yeah.
one or whatever, I'd be
a squatch.
I'd be like, all right, I believe that.
I 100%.
I 100% believe that
Yeah,
because it's like it's a region that it could live in.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's like gross swamp.
Yeah.
Like you could disappear and never be found.
Absolutely.
And nobody wants to go in there
No.
and look for it, except for those guys that are real diehard Squatch hunters.
Exactly.
More
Yeah.
power to you.
I will say, when we talked about the mysterious forest,
Yeah.
the dark woods, I feel like that helps with the South very much, regionally speaking, because even if we're talking Appalachia, going into the dark, scary woods is...
Oh, you
Like-
could feel that in
Yeah,
some
right?
places.
And like a large part of growing up in Florida is you're told not to go into certain areas because of the wildlife.
Yeah, there's like
inevitably.
snakes, and
Yeah.
so we have we're like the fucking Australia of
We
America.
are. I've often said that. I've always felt a kinship to Australia because our environments are trying to murder us all
Yes,
the time.
It's inhospitable,
yeah.
and the wildlife is poisonous.
There is no reason we should live here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or them there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was always told, like, don't go out into the woods because of either snakes, alligators, spiders, or
Yeah.
mosquitoes,
mm-hmm.
all of which can make you ill, eat you, or poison you.
Absolutely.
In some way.
Yeah. Well, I
The
remember
true trifecta, really.
I remember the big one was water moccasins.
Oh, yeah.
That was the
Have
one.
you ever seen one of those?
Yes.
They're
like
scary.
the slipper thing
It
you
is
like
scary.
throw in your pool.
Yeah. That's it.
Have you ever seen a water moccasin, Nick?
Not in person.
You
no.
probably didn't go to the rural part
You
of
wouldn't be
Florida.
joking if you've seen one.
Yeah.
First of all, it's big as fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
Really?
it's like
And it-
creepily big.
And it moves really fucking quickly, and it's really fucking scary.
shit.
And it's like on top of the water.
Yeah.
Like,
Like
it's
Jesus Christ.
like Jesus Christ slathering towards Bethlehem with a mouthful of poison.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
man.
ready to bite you.
And they're mean.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Because that's the thing about alligators is if they're not hungry,
They're ornery because they
they're-
got all them teeth,
Teeth
but
and
no toothbrush.
so,
Sorry.
so with gators, they're not going to bite you. You know?
Step on them.
Yeah.
They're going to bite you.
Right. If you're out in a swamp at dawn or dusk,
Why are you there?
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
question.
because that's when they're hungry.
Yeah.
And if it's particularly hot outside, stay out of the shaded, swampy areas because that's probably where the alligator is.
Yeah.
But they're not actively trying to like fuck your day up. It's like you would have to fuck with them.
You're fucking their day up.
yeah. There's-
And like it's
Ye-
creepy because they'll go to the bottom.
Yeah.
If you don't know this,
Mhm.
if you've never lived in Florida and had to deal with them.
Yeah.
But that's why we don't swim
Yeah.
in the rivers here.
No,
Like
because they're there
they're and even when we go to like the springs, because we do have those,
and they're wonderful
they're beautiful. They're there too.
and deadly.
Yeah. It's like at any point in time while you're there, it's like you'll hear these like guttural grunting noises.
Yeah.
And it's like a creepy primal
Demon.
sound. Like
Like a priest finding an altar boy.
yeah. It's
but like and you'll know.
Yeah.
And if you're not from here, you're probably like, "Oh, what's that weird thing?"
oh, how weird.
Yeah, that's a
That's
bunch of alligators.
That's my main accent.
That swamp gas is escaping. I
My
assume.
Right.
goodness.
And
How crazy is that?
Also, at any point in time, the fucking water moccasins
That-
can come out of nowhere.
So that's the other thing on why you should be much more scared of them. Because they'll just bite you for fun.
Like our
For sport.
For sport.
wilderness setting is
Yeah.
scary.
So it lends itself very well to folk legends and
Oh,
urban legends.
Absolutely.
Both to scare children and to scare adults.
Yeah. For like cautionary tales, you can't
Yep.
do better than our wilderness.
No, you can't.
And when you think about like, we've talked a lot about like the mountains and the forest, stuff
Right.
like that. We've got both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got like the creepy hill people stories,
Yeah.
first of all, and we talked about that a little bit already.
The fear of other
The
people.
fear of the other being,
Yeah.
which is like the mountain folk that do things different.
Man,
or
the South really, it's like kind of like just really sinking in, but like it is rife for storytelling.
Yeah,
it really is.
absolutely.
And like, I mean, that's obviously like a very human thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, especially like when you consider, so very agrarian people, whether
Yep.
it's down in low country or up in the mountains or whatever, like they're doing very manual, laborious kind of tasks. So what are they going to want to do when the sun goes down and they can't do anything? They're going to sit around and tell stories.
Yeah.
We're bullshit. It's not like an
Yeah.
industrial region,
Yeah.
for the majority of its existence.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like tons of like, I mean, I can think of more like Southern like ghost stories.
Yes.
And like a lot of our ghost stories are like witch based too.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have noticed that it is this not quite Salem witches.
Yeah,
'cause
it's different.
Yeah, not New England witches, but like voodoo witches.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck. Basically pre and post Civil War.
Yeah,
in
that's
the
where
South.
it's right. That's where
Yeah.
our witch stories all
Yeah.
come from.
It gets pretty spoopy.
Yeah. And I think that the Southern witch stories are
Mhm.
actually scarier than the Northern ones.
Yeah,
And then you got to think about like,
because they're
it's-
undefeated. They killed the Salem witches, the
Yeah, but
Southern witches.
They didn't kill them.
They've never lost.
Yeah, that's right.
So their confidence is like,
And confidence is a quality all its own
yeah,
when you're battling
Right.
witches.
Witches are known for using lots of charisma in their
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I
so
know.
like, come on,
there's a big difference in talking to a salesperson that knows themselves and not. You know?
right?
Same
exactly.
with witches.
Yeah, that's what I've often said that.
And you think too, like there's a lot of in the ghost realm in the South.
Mhm.
There's
yeah.
a lot of sadness
Yeah.
to it, like because most of it is like feels Victorian,
Mhm.
but it's like Southern Gothic is
Yeah.
its own brand of
It is.
sadness.
Yeah,
Like
it's really quite tragic. Yeah,
it's really creepy.
yeah.
Like when you think of Southern Gothic, what do you think of?
When I think of Southern, I think of Tennessee Williams.
Yeah,
actually.
right.
so it's these people that fucking hate each other
Oh God, yes.
and unrequited, love that you can't really talk about ever. One of them's gay, but they're not allowed to be gay.
Yeah, because that was the South.
Right. And then there's the whole race issue.
Right?
Just
And it's-
rears its head because
It's weird. Like
can't get away from
Southern
it.
Gothic as a theme
yeah.
in literature and in storytelling and movies
Mm-hmm.
is not like you don't get it a lot right
Yeah.
now. Like there's not like a big current of Southern
Mhm.
Gothic stuff,
No.
but they'll go through periods where there is.
Yeah.
And we're in a not Southern Gothic phase in pop media right now, but it'll come back.
Oh, absolutely.
It's always like we've got a decaying property.
Yeah, and
It's a family property.
Yeah.
And it's like the family is the thing that's decayed.
yeah.
And it's like their value system has crumbled.
It feels almost like royalty that's in America, but it's a royalty that's like without its
Founded.
people.
Yeah.
You know?
Because they're not there anymore.
Exactly. So it's like this abandoned kingdom
then-
kind of thing.
But then when you think about it like critically, the
Mhm.
reason why they are royalty is because of slave owning
Yes.
aristocracy.
exactly.
Which is scary.
Yeah.
Like authoritarian evil.
yeah, so it's
And then there's a nostalgia,
then that's fucked up.
which
'cause
is
it's
fucked
like,
up by its
Oh, the good old days when we fucking
owned people, and that was fine. Ugh.
what?
No, there
Yeah.
were no good old days.
No.
The
So
good
it's
old
like,
days were like last week when you
Yeah.
bought me a sandwich.
yeah.
Like the good old days are now. Maybe not sometimes. Like
So it's this odd juxtaposition of a king without a kingdom, and
but then like the kingdom is poisoned
yeah,
on
from
top
the beginning,
from the
yeah.
start and like the family unit is collapsing and the
Yeah.
only remnants of it are like, oh yeah, that's the cousin who's left and
Yeah.
he's not right.
Right. Yeah. There's inevitably the incestuous kind of
Right.
aspect of it. So it's like, oh,
Or-
there's the brother who lives in the attic who
He-
has like
He was
5
never the same
you know.
since the accident.
Yeah, right.
There's always a fucking accident.
Yeah, right. Or-
There's since the
Oh, yeah.
tragedy.
He
Her-
was an accident.
Yeah.
her husband killed himself and she's never gotten over it and is wearing her wedding dress still or never
Yeah.
came out of mourning.
Yeah, and she
Yeah.
comes out and she's like, "Today's my wedding day," and
And that's super common.
Yeah.
In like Southern ghost stories.
we're
and,
talking
like
this,
that's a trope
Yeah,
right there.
to the point where you're like, "Oh, this again, great."
Yeah.
Oh, another
sure,
horse
another
riding and
jilted
stuff.
lover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know that he's from Maryland. Poe.
Yeah.
Right? He's a Marylander, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong on that?
No, you're right.
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Okay. Fucking Fall of the House of Usher.
Yeah,
Think of that. Like where like literally the
Usher
house
Raymond J.
Usher.
I would say yeah. Poe is probably the most northern southern gothic.
Yeah, that you're gonna get.
That
But
you're
like the
yeah.
whole house is decayed, and
Yeah.
like that theme is just rife for storytelling.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's that. It's weird because like as an adult here, you can see it, and you've probably seen it in the rural areas too, of like
Mhm.
the former mansion that's decrepit and like they don't live there anymore,
Yeah.
or there used to be a town magnate and now he or she is dead, and it's
Ew.
like it's weird.
yeah.
I love it. It's so dark and twisted, and it's just there's nothing but like delicious weirdness involved in our storytelling. But when you think about it like that, the reason why we have all of these like weird stories, weird places, is you've got like we've talked about this a little bit. It's the melting pot aspect.
Yeah.
Like
So you're getting the best of the best from all these different cultures.
absolutely. So
yeah.
think about like how big it is, right? We touched
Mhm.
Mexico.
Right.
We have a lot of people that come up through Texas that now inhabit here.
Texaco.
Texaco.
Texaco, right.
You've got like you've got a Latin American flair in
Yeah.
some places. You've got a like West African flair in certain places, like
Absolutely.
in like South Carolina, Georgia.
Mhm.
You've got a Caribbean flair
Yeah.
in Florida and Louisiana.
Oh, yeah. And then we haven't even touched all the European influence from
Yeah, but that's in like the northern South.
right.
You know, like sometimes. I
No,
don't
you're right. No, you're right. Because predominantly New England is
Yeah.
basically a continuation of England, but we've got some Celtic stuff going on down here.
Yeah, and like the Appalachians is like
Mhm.
weird, and the Ozarks too.
Yeah.
is like weird, like Celtic stuff.
Yeah.
So you get this is like literally like a handful of groups of people that have like rich like magic
Yes.
folklore
Incredible cultures. Yeah.
all in one region.
yeah.
And like where else are you gonna get that? That's
Yeah. All this.
Not in Dakota. Or any of that
that's right,
shit.
Dakota. We're
Okay.
looking
That's
at you.
right, Dakotas. Yeah.
Neither
Fucking-
north, south, nor Fanning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
that's
when you
right.
think about like how the people got here, not
Oi!
nee.
Zoinks!
Zoinks indeed.
Yeah.
But
Big jinkies, am I right?
yeah, for real.
yeah.
But it's made us better.
It
like,
has.
You know, having like this big like
Mhm.
blend of people, because most people I know are bilingual.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. You
That
wouldn't
is
think
really
that
cool.
about being, you know, Southern and bilingual. There's huge
Mhm.
like overlap in that, where it's like a lot of my friends speak Creole or
Mhm.
Portuguese, Spanish, like
See,
yeah. Not
See.
me. I'm terrible. I could barely speak
Yeah, I can't.
English.
I barely parlez-vous français, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Ditto.
But like when you think about like this the cultural traditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta there's and I do you think should we go into this now or should we pick this up in maybe part 2? I know we've gone on for a while here.
I'm leaning towards part 2,
Okay.
just
Let's
because we're at about 57 minutes.
let's do a part 2 on this one.
Perfect.
Sorry guys. I know that we talked a lot about that. I hope that was at least an interesting
I
discussion.
hope so. It was more of a historical
It's
discussion.
very eye-opening almost.
Yeah.
Like I like that we've kind of been doing that a lot more lately anyways.
Yeah.
Where it's like here's the historical half, here's the real edu part. Now let's get into the tainment and really like here's the weird
Yeah.
stuff. You're gonna learn,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be fun and it's gonna be
Yeah.
our bread and butter.
Yeah, well, we touched on some weird stuff here, but
Right.
we got more stuff that you're probably looking for
Yeah.
coming up in the second episode. But we wanted to have a good discussion on this and really lay the groundwork. for it.
Yeah,
Feel like the groundwork's been laid?
I think so.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
ready.
Any last thoughts on episode part 1 of 2?
I do have a quick question.
Sure.
Which biome or section would be your favorite if you had to pick a favorite
Oh,
one?
man.
Probably an apple orchard in New York. Oh, you weren't talking to me.
No.
We get it. It's better there.
Yeah,
All right.
can it.
Can it.
Okay.
You got to
We're
pick.
not talking about that today.
You damn Yankee.
Ugh. You know, they win one Civil War.
They
and you
never shut up about it. Oh, man.
You guys don't have slaves one time.
Yeah.
And we're glad that we don't, because
Yeah.
why the fuck did we have it in the
Yeah.
beginning?
Right.
This is a democracy. Okay, I'm not going to.
Anyway,
Okay.
if I had to pick, I can pick mine.
Yeah.
Because I've got it locked and loaded.
You got it. You got it in the chamber.
Yes, absolutely. My
Well, stand your ground on this one. What is it?
He's like, hill people, next.
hill people.
Hill
boom,
people, the end.
done.
No elaboration.
I have no connections to this region at all, but it's still just my favorite one.
I thought you meant the South in general. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What have we been talking about the last hour for, Ethan?
No, it's because my family is predominantly the Appalachian.
Okay.
Yeah, but my favorite one would be Louisiana, New Orleans,
The
Creole.
Bayou.
Yes, I think that is so fascinating.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it is so all the voodoo influence.
Yeah, that's like your favorite like cultural region.
Yeah, if we were to
Yeah.
talk just the South, yeah.
Okay.
I love that part.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I'd have to honestly like I have like no connection to this at all, like familial or personal history or anything.
Yeah.
There is something about the low country, South Carolina, Georgia that just speaks to me when I like cuz I go to like I vacation in Savannah a lot
Nice.
and
summer and
That's a
Savannah,
very
quite often.
fancy sentence you just said.
I know. It's one of my favorite vacation destinations.
That's
It's
great.
beautiful. I find it to be very inspiring.
Yeah.
But the low country
Mhm.
Gullah people is just beautiful. Like so
Yeah.
it's like a West African ancestral group of people
Yeah.
that were brought there sadly,
Right.
but have really made the region their own. Like they have their own language and traditions, and it's like it's the South but African
Yeah.
feeling, and it's amazing.
Cool.
And like the region is beautiful. It's like a swamp that's not shitty because it's like it's like a
Never heard of it.
saltwater swamp.
Yeah.
kinda.
Okay.
it's
So like you can boat on it,
Mhm.
and it's just you got like the cypress trees, and it's just it's a
It's a super like
picturesque thing.
rich, like from an ecological standpoint,
Mhm.
very, very rich. Lots of stuff to go off of there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. Like the botany of the areas.
Yeah.
My partner's a botanist, so
Oh, nice.
we get to talk about that while we're driving through it, and it's fascinating to me.
that is cool.
Yes, look at this fern.
Look at the fern.
Look
What
at
a-
these plants that have salination, like salination removal structures in them. And I'm like,
Wow, what a
Didn't even-
coniferous tree.
wouldn't have
even-
thought of that.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Didn't know they
Wow.
could do that. That's
Wow.
pretty cool. I just
Damn.
thought they'd die if salt touched them.
Badass plants. Wow.
Fuck yeah. What about you, Nick? Where's your favorite
Yeah.
cultural or
Other than the the glorious.
We're going to
north.
ignore the north.
Okay.
I think I'd probably have to say some of the mountain regions. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so much going on up there. So much
Mhm.
between just a rich history and interesting people. And, I mean, I will always go back to mountains.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably it.
Cool.
Have you ever done the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina?
Not North Carolina. We did in Tennessee.
Okay.
Nice.
So the
But-
Smoky Mountains
Mhm.
region, incredible.
Yeah.
And what you can also get out of that is a hugely rich Native American tradition too.
Yeah.
Very heavy.
And that's to me like I was blown away by that
Mhm.
when we got a chance to see that. Did you ever get any exposure to that?
Yeah,
while
we
you
got
were
to see
there?
a little bit, kind of see some of that, see a lot of like, it was nice because it was so much more laid back because it was like, you picture like, okay, well, he's near Dollywood. Like if you just literally turn the opposite direction for 20 minutes,
Yeah.
it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Super unspoiled, lots of local history. And
Yeah,
like, it was just so nice to be up there.
definitely.
Nice.
Nice. So we got mountains, low country, and the bayou.
Yeah, the swamp.
I would probably put the bayou in the second
The
one, though.
swamp on me. Well,
I love it.
we're gonna dive in a lot more on this stuff in part 2
Yeah.
of Southern Charms.
Part deux.
Part 2.
Duh.
Bon chance.
Victor, play the Creole music.
Play the Creole music. That's the end of this one.
I'm talking about. Come on, bring it back in one more time. Let's go. Oh, yeah. Do it. Creole music was dead and gone. Creole music gonna come back strong. Creole music was dead and gone. Creole music gonna come back strong. Come back strong. Come back strong. Come back strong. Creole music, baby. Home but not forgotten. Bring it back to you one time for your mind. Remix.